Milk Crate Moment with entrepreneur and leadership coach Brian Swift. And I've known Brian for a little while. Somebody told me they're like, you need to get to know Brian. You need to get to know Brian. You need to get to know Brian. So you know what? I got to know Brian. So today, Brian, thank you so much for being here today.
No, thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Well, you and Brian, this is how if you've heard any of the podcasts so far, the one thing the first question I ask is, what was your milk crate moment?
Good question. I love the question. So my first milk crate moment, I could narrow down to the exact day, and I probably could narrow down the time, but it was in December of 1980.
Oh, we're going back a while.
I was 17 years old. Yes. Where it was, I was 17 years old. And it was about 3 weeks after I had football in the park with my friends. So every year, I was very athletic. We played football. My friends, we all got together after Christmas, went to a park, played football, and I just got hit funny and I broke my neck. So I was up at the rehab center, and December sticks in my mind, or it sticks in my mind because of that. But my birthday's January, at the end of January. And it was probably a week or two before my birthday. And the thought of turning 18 in a rehab center was not what I had envisioned. Would anybody envision? So my dad had come up to visit me, and I probably was in a little bit of not the best spirits. I'll put it that way. And he took his coat off, sat down at the table with me, because it was around lunchtime, and we just chatted back and forth maybe a little bit, and he got up and he went and put it on, walked back over to the table, and basically said, you know what, if you're going to be down, if you're going to be in bad spirits, I will not come up here and visit you, because I'm not coming up to see you be this way. He said, it is your responsibility to keep this family up. It is your responsibility to be happy, because the way you go is the way this family will go. So that is on your shoulders. You have to be positive. You have to be upbeat, because that's the way the family will go if you're that way. Took off his coat, sat back down. We finished lunch, and that was it. I knew at that time, like, that was my, pardon?
I said, I'm kind of shocked, because that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody who had just broken his neck, finds out they're paralyzed, is going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of their life, right? And you're basically putting that pressure on. It's like, look, if you can't get your act together, you're the responsibility. It's your responsibility to make sure the family's happy going forward, right? Now, tell me what that did to you, though, because that is a lot of pressure to put on an 18-year-old who just went through all of that. How did you handle that?
And it registered. It just registered. Like, I understood why. Just because, like, and I guess it just, if you're at home and one of your parents walk in and they're in a bad mood, what does it do?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of puts everybody in a bad mood, right? And as a parent, we're only as happy as our most miserable kid, right? I mean, you pick that up. And
Right.
For some reason, Gene, even at 18, I realized I get it. Like, he's right. And it probably wasn't until later that I kind of thought, wait a minute, this is kind of BS. I'm the one going through all this. But nobody goes through that stuff alone. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I can now because I have kids. I couldn't imagine what it did to my mom and dad.
Sure.
They never showed it. I never saw them cry. I never saw them broke down. I never seen them show a weak moment.
Wow.
And I know they broke down. I know they cried. I know they had doubts, but I never saw it. They would never let me see that. That's just the way I was brought up, because if I'm supposed to be strong, I mean, my dad and my mom were like, they modeled what they wanted from their kids.
That's
And that's the way it was.
And Brian, I love I love the fact that your mom and dad modeled how they wanted you kids, and especially you, after you've had this most devastating thing happen, because it could have gone really bad really fast, right? But I love the fact that they modeled that for you. And I'm gonna just tell you something kind of funny here is my mom had a motto, and it was, if your mama ain't happy, nobody's gonna be happy. So
The truth.
well, no, but almost putting it on us to make sure that she was happy all the time. And you know what? That's not my responsibility to make sure somebody else is happy,
I
right?
know.
And I don't. That's a lot of responsibility, right? So yay for you for stepping up to the plate and seeing that. I apparently am not a team player like you are, right? So I didn't care. So but I love the fact that you really took that to heart. So how do you think you got through that? So listen, that had to hurt a little bit, because it's like, can't you see? I mean, I would be sitting there thinking, look, can't you see what's happened to me? And this is how I don't know how the rest of my life is going to turn out. And I'm just turning 18. So how did you get through all of that? That had to be a story in and of itself.
It is. And there's so much to share. Well, one, my dad was a man of integrity, character, and integrity. And I mean, I've never seen a man get up and do his job every day and come home and serve his family and never say a word bad about. Mom was the same way. She was a homemaker, and then when the kids all got in school, she worked, and they just were models. And my mom was a model of faith, and I was brought up Irish Catholic. Um, so I had a foundation in faith and belief, and man, I relied on that big time. I wouldn't be here today without the power of God. I mean, especially back then in 1979, when you broke your neck, your life, your outcome would have made a Dr. Seuss book look like a Stephen King novel. I mean, it was not pretty. It was a pretty bad outcome. They just didn't have the technology. They just didn't have, I don't think they believed that like people could have. The statistics were horrible. And we just refused to listen and believe to the statistics as a family. And so my faith was what got me through. But even with faith, and even with my parents being there to support me, if you don't want it, I can't force, like you said, I can't. It's not your responsibility to make somebody else, force somebody else to be strong and to keep moving forward and to be optimistic and whatnot. You can want, but ultimately they have to want it. And for some crazy reason, Gene, I always wanted it. I didn't. Yeah.
I love that, Brian. I love the fact that you weren't going to let this, and you and I've had a conversation about this before, right? You weren't going to let this stop you. You might be in a wheelchair, but that doesn't mean you're going to stop living. That doesn't mean you're going to stop moving forward. Did I ever tell you I have another friend who had broken his neck in college and is in the same exactly the same space where you're at? He's an entrepreneur. He is, I'm going to say he's probably at this point, he's probably about 34-ish, and lived in Lansing. And I know he's not now. I know he's a little further north now by the lake. But how funny is that you would know two people, two entrepreneurs with the same accident that you had, right? That ended up in a wheelchair.
And you truly go one or the other. I mean, you either thrive or you go into this really struggling life. And even thriving, it's not easy. It's, it might take me 15 minutes to take off a shirt and put another shirt on, but you show up with a shirt on and everybody thinks, oh, look, he looks nice. They don't realize how long it took me to do certain things and what it takes. But it is what it doesn't matter. The fact is that, I show up the way I want to show up, and I move forward because I'm an example to 3 kids. And and equally important, I'm an example to the disability community and to the world, because I worked in corporate for 25 years, how powerful people in wheelchairs are. It's it's just not, after 40 years, people assume that you also have some type of cognitive issue. When they see you in a wheelchair, people that start talking slow to you, start talking loud to you, like it's gonna help, right? Hi, how are you? And I revert right away to my sarcasm, which is just my defense mechanism for less than brilliant people, and whatnot. But it's not a friendly world out there, but nobody said it was gonna be. It's not easy for you. It's not easy for anybody. So
Right. Well, oops, hold on though. There, my screen went dark for a minute. Well, I want to take a quick break for a little infomercial here, and then we're going to come back because I want to talk about your leadership piece here too. So don't go
Sure.
anywhere. We're going to say that this podcast is sponsored by Influence Speaker Training for Business Owners. I'm not teaching anybody to speak at Influence. I'm teaching them what to say. So if you're looking for more leads, you need to create more leads in your business so that you can bring in more clients. That's exactly what Influence for Speaker Training for Business Owners is going to do for you. So if you're interested, drop me a note on any of my social media channels, and I'm happy to respond to you. All right, let's come back to you, Brian. And one of the things I want to talk about is, number one, you spent so many years in corporate, but now you're an entrepreneur. How did you make that transition?
I love corporate, and I don't want to sound arrogant. I was really good at what I did.
Why is that arrogant? Why would you consider that arrogant?
Because I don't talk about myself in that way too often, and sometimes it sounds weird if I do.
I don't think
But
it sounds weird at all. I think it sounds proud, right? You sound proud.
I know what it took for me to succeed at the level that people who didn't have my obstacles did. And I just didn't exceed to their level. I exceeded a lot out of what it then did. And it has made me proud. But that being said, I got to a point where after 20 something years, I probably knew I wasn't going to go up any further into the corporate ladder, probably because of my very honest opinion and mouth about things that go on in the world. And I was okay with that because I could look at myself in the mirror, and I never burned a bridge, but I knew I wasn't going to probably go further. And I was starting to have some health issues, rotator cuff problems, because I still use a manual wheelchair. I push my chair. I haven't used an electric chair, and I needed to rehab that. So I was dealing with some health things. There were talks and about new positions and where they were going to move people to. And I don't think I was going to be moved to somewhere that I was looking to be moved to, even though I had another good year. And there were things I always wanted to do. So I wanted to start a nonprofit. I wanted to write a book. There were all these things I wanted to do, and I wanted to spend more time with my family. And I stepped away. I said, I'm done. Not just in a whim. I put some feelers out there. I had some job offers, that were just part-time. I was like, I don't mind working. I'm not working more than 20 hours because I want to start a nonprofit and I want to do this. What happened? I got out of corporate. I was able to still do things in a corporate manner. Actually, it was a startup that's still thriving. We started up from nothing. I have a nonprofit, 501c3 nonprofit called Swift Outdoor Accessible Recreation SOAR. We help people with disabilities get back outdoors. I wrote my first book called Up, Getting Up is the Key to Life. And it's autobiographical in nature, but it's how to get up. Because breaking my neck was just one of believe it or not, that was one of many obstacles that I had to face through the years. So it was a tiny one.
Well, you've not just written one book. How many books have you written now?
I just put out my 7th book called Develop, and it is a word you don't hear a lot about. And grit is one of those things you cannot be taught. You can't be taught grit. It's not taught in class, but you can learn how to be gritty. And I think from our society tremendously. And it's just the way I grew up. I had a gritty personality. I had to, especially after breaking my neck, and I brought my kids up the same way. I coached athletics that way. I made my kids gritty. I didn't make it easy for them, because nothing out in the world is easy. It's tough. It's unforgiving. And I wanted to teach people how to deal with that.
I think that's amazing. And so let's recap. You broke your neck, you're in a wheelchair, you have been since you were 17 years old. You are an author, but you're also a radio show host. Give us a little insight about that.
Yeah, that came to me in a crazy way. I was doing, somebody found out about our nonprofit and said, hey, do you want to come on the radio and talk about your fundraiser coming up? And I was like, heck yeah, I'd love to get the word out on the radio. That'd be awesome. So I did that. And about a year later, he calls me and says, hey, we have a station. We're a great guest. And I was a guest another time. He let me come on when my first book came out. And he goes, did you ever think about having a radio show? I was like, no, it's like not on my top 100 things I'd like to do. He goes, I'll show you what you have to do. I'll walk you through the process, because I think you'd be awesome. You got a great story. I said, I'll try it. So I signed a contract for basically 3 months. It's on WJOL 1340. This will be live streamed. And I called it the Quadfather, All Things Inspirational. And guests come on. It's on every Wednesday at 12:05. And I've had, Olympians. I've had Lou Holtz. I've had Rudy Rudiger from the movie Rudy. And I've had a lot of local businesses, single moms that went through tough times that never quit and raised great families and started their own businesses. And I've had people with disabilities on that have very inspiring stories. So I just like to inspire. So, it went from 3 months to 6 months. Now I'm going on year 2.
Oh, that's fantastic, Brian. I'm not going to say, you also had Gene Kunite, I believe, right? At least
I have had some amazing business people on, like you, Gene, and people. And if it wasn't for people like you and a lot of my sponsors, I would not be able to do the show. But I've been blessed to have very good sponsors, some really good guests, and people who have great stories.
I love that, Brian. And so let's add author, radio show host, but you're also a leadership expert, right?
I am.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
My leadership, first of all, I believe there's 3 types of leadership. For one, we've all got to lead ourselves, right?
Right.
So that's one. And then you have to learn to lead others. And really at the top of it is you have to learn to lead leaders.
Right.
And back when I was in my 20s, I became a coach. I coached athletics. I coached football and I coached basketball. Leader of kids, a leader of young men. And you learn a lot about yourself with that. And that's probably when my leadership journey started. And then I moved on and I coached in high school, and then finished high school, went on to college. And so I've coached for a long time, and I'd say that's where it started. But then when I went into corporate, I was in sales, but then they asked me to run training. And then they gave me my own team of 20-something people to lead. And I succeeded at a very high level leading people, because I have several acronyms I live by and I train by. One of them is CIA, commitment, integrity, and attitude. You have to approach everything with those three things in mind and other things. And I learned that, you know, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And just like anything, you know, I had to build a relationship and build trust in these professionals in order for them to trust me enough to listen to the things I said and believe in what I say. And that's how I grew my success. And then when I left corporate, I took it out into the entrepreneurial world.
I love that. Somebody posted, we have somebody on Facebook who posted this, Brian. I don't know if you can see it. Brian Swift, the quad father, has a very inspirational story that everyone must listen to about perseverance and positivity. I love that. I love that. So you're a radio show host, you're an author, you're a speaker, but you're also a furniture maker, right? I mean, Brian, what's next? What's next in the Brian Swift show, right?
Well,
After with all of the things you have, like I love the fact that you said radio show wasn't on the top 100 things you wanted to do. What's next on the top 100 list that you want to do?
so yeah, I do make furniture. I love with woodworking. I love live edge. So I make table boards. I started that during COVID. You know, it was something I knew my dad was, you know, into woodworking. And my thing during COVID was if you don't come out with a new talent or a new hobby, you just wasted all this time. So I got back into woodworking and whatnot. So what you may not have known is that I'm slightly funny, at least I think I am. And there is a venue out here. I don't know if you've ever heard of CD and Me. They
What is
host,
that? Say it again.
it's called CD and Me. It's in Frankfort, Illinois. They host weddings and graduations, and they have music festivals. And during the winter, they host anything too, weddings or graduations and comics. They have a lot of good bands. So I go up there quite a bit. They're actually one of our sponsors for the radio show. And I told the owner that I could do comedy for you. I go, I'm a funny guy. He goes, no, you're not. He goes, I don't think you could do more than like 2 minutes. I said, well, give me a shot. I go, give me a shot. I go, I'll go on stage. And we were up there to listen to a comedian one day about a month ago. And he takes my wife aside and he says, I'm going to give him a shot. And my wife almost faints. And he goes, have you been practicing? I go, I do not need to practice to be funny. And I have. I mean, I've been practicing for probably years. I have years of stuff I've written.
Right.
And so he comes over and you'll remember the show. The headliner was J.J. Walker.
Oh.
From Good Times. I'm showing my age. There was a long, I mean, it was on years and years. J.J.
Right.
Walker from Good Times was the headliner, and a local lady was kind of the second. He goes, I want you to MC the show. I was like, fine. I go, what do I got? 15, 20 minutes? He goes, no. He goes, you'll be lucky if you get through 2 minutes. So bottom line is they had a packed house, probably about 250, 300 people. And I opened up for them and I did about 7 minutes of comedy and it went really well. I was very pleased.
Slayed it. I heard you slayed it.
I don't know if I slayed it, but I'm kind of tough on myself. I was very pleased with it. I got a lot of good laughs. So there, I would love to do more of it, just because it scared the heck out of me. And I was nervous. I was dry mouth. I was, you know, should I have a drink before I go up? Shouldn't I? I don't know. You know, I didn't. But the reward afterwards of knowing what you just did, I felt awesome.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I might try more comedy. I don't know.
Well, listen, if you do, please make sure that I get an invite to it, right? We'll buy a ticket. We're always looking for something fun. We love comedy shows. So I listen, we have to go. We're almost out of time. So I want to talk about the fact really quick here that Brian has a free gift for you, and that is his ebook on positive self-talk, right? So Brian, I'm gonna just drop this link here for people.
Sure.
Now, it will be it'll be every place on all of the social media. You're seeing it here at um, the bottom of the screen. And if I remember, I will go back and put that. I hate to say that because I never remember, right? But I'll leave it up there. You can go on here. You can pause it if you don't see it in the comments. I'll try to remember to do that. But Brian, you have been first of all, you're just a fascinating man. I think the world of
Thank
you.
you.
I think that you have the right attitude, which like, I said at the beginning, like my mom's theory was if she's not happy, the rest of us shouldn't be happy, right? And I really did mean that because you get to a point where you understand as an adult, and I've got my own family, it's not my job to make my mom happy, right? We as individuals, and it's not your job to make your family happy, it's your job to make you happy, right? So when you're happy, those around you are happy. So I understand what your dad was saying to you. I was just kind of open.
Yeah, no, trust me, I get it in whatnot. He was just a very he was old
Yeah,
school, and I love the man to death
absolutely.
because everything he did, I know he did because he loved me.
I absolutely believe that from the bottom of my heart. So he really gave you a great blessing to show you how to be happy throughout your life, right? Because the alternative would be to live a very miserable life where you haven't accomplished half of what you've done now. So you have just been an amazing guest. I definitely gonna want you
Thank
to come
you.
back and talk a little more about some of the things that you're doing. But Brian, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity and all that you provide. You know what you do is amazing. I've learned a lot from you and all the classes you offer, and I appreciate your
Oh,
friendship.
I appreciate you. So thank you so much. Have a great day, and I will talk to you later. Take
You
care. Bye.
too.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
much,
Bye.
Gene.